you've got to remember, this is not an immediate return on work business. I mean, I have business now, but I've been working this business for, these current clients for 6 months.
Hmm.
So understanding, having patience, having thick skin, being honest, and being able to have honest, hard conversations.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. I have an amazing agent in the studio today. She works in an area of Florida that is a hidden treasure, the Fernandina Beach, Fernandina and Amelia Island area. She has only been an agent for 2.5 years. She has done nearly 90 transactions, peaking over 50 transactions in 2022. Many agents that she licensed with statistically have fallen out of the business. In other words, the class that she was in,
Really?
or probably you're not in the business anymore, statistically. They have fallen out as 80% do. She is on an upward trajectory, and I want to know why. The listeners want to know how, and that is why she is here today. She has a doctorate in physical therapy and left that for real estate. Let's welcome the amazing agent Miranda Ferreira to the show.
Thank you so much.
I-
I'm excited.
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Ferreira?
Ferreira.
Yeah, we
Okay.
get everything from Ferreira to Ferrari
Yeah.
to, I was like, no, I wish I was part of the Ferraris, but no,
Oh.
I'm happy to be part of the Ferreiras.
Okay. I thought about that when I was doing the notes. I said, make sure I ask her how to pronounce, her last name. Like Jordan Feria, that's her name gets butchered as well on that. So, but I am really excited. I went in there and those numbers might have been they're close to your transactions based on the technology that we have that are pulling your transactions. So they might be off for a couple here or there, more or less, but your trajectory just, from just a few deals in 2020.
Yeah.
And then, 21 and 22, you're on this upward trend. And I think there's things that you're doing that some agents out there hopefully will want to know, that hopefully are listening, and we're going to be able to share with them and help them, push their lid. Because like I said, on every episode, my goal is if there's a new agent out there, someone just getting started, or an agent maybe has hit a lid, just trying to figure out what's their next step. They want to do more, but just can't figure it out. That something on this episode that they're going to hear from you is going to inspire you, or at least get them to call you and ask you more details about, stuff that you're doing.
Awesome. And I'm super excited. I'm always a student, given my poor parents and my however many college years and however many majors. We'll get into that. That's a funny story.
Yes, you do have an extensive college. So the young Miranda, where are you growing up at? I didn't get that from your bios.
Nowhere Podunk, Louisiana. Like
Okay.
literally is not on.
Well, that's why
some
you ended up
maps.
going to LSU for your undergrad.
Yeah, eventually, yes.
Yeah.
I had to tour a few campuses before I settled on LSU.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
So yeah, I grew up on a sugarcane farm out in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana. My
Interesting.
dad was a third generation farmer, still farms. Yeah, so I grew up on like 10 plus acres. Nearest fast food was 30 minutes one way.
Mm-hmm.
So I joke, my parents don't even have cable. Like they only have satellite. They can't have cable because they're too far out.
Too far out in the boonies. I'm just going to have you, because I know the natural thing is to look at each other. But yeah, because the way I position that camera to get the best shot of you. Yeah.
I'm gonna so butcher that all
yeah,
day.
Yeah. Just I'm listening to you, Chelsea. You don't have to stare at me. It's natural to do it. I totally understand.
That's all part of my mystique.
So I mean, like, how big of a high school class did you go to?
I graduated with 53 students.
53 students.
53 students. We were single A, which, I mean, in my whole high school, 9th through 12th, probably under 300 students. So that's how small
You're immediately
we were.
giving the vision of the movie Hoosiers. And,
It was very much like that. Yeah, no, so we had, I come from a super, super small town. Everybody knows everybody. And when I go back, literally, I can go into the Walmart or the Winn-Dixie or whatever and, hey, oh, we didn't know you were back in town. Your mama said. And it's, yes, I know. And I still get calls from back home. Well, you haven't called your mama in a while. And I was like, yes, I know.
That's great. That's great. So as you're finishing up, high school, I mean, you said you looked at a couple different campuses, but obviously, your major I think it was your undergrad was in health or in nutrition. I mean, what did you envision yourself doing at that?
I didn't know. And that's the funny part. Like I started out at one college, pre-chemistry, pre-pharmacy. Then I switched colleges, again, went into pre-radiology, and then I ended up at LSU and then kind of fell into nutrition. I wanted to cook. I wanted to be a chef, honestly. And my parents said, and this is the first child mentality, if you go to be a chef, there's not enough certainty in that profession. We're not going to pay for your college. I was like, okay, well then yes, I'll go get a degree. In true first child people
Oh.
pleaser fashion. So I went, and it's kind of funny because I am kind of the wayward soul of my family. And I think we're getting a phone call. So, but yeah, so in any case, 6 months before I go to leave on my internship, my graduation date is set. I'm getting all the paperwork ready. Come home one night, Mom, Dad, I'm going to go to PT school. I'm not going to go finish my nutrition degree and my internship. I think my dad
Was it just someone that you met that like introduced you to this? Or I mean, what kind of, did you have any real experience or know anybody that was giving you information on these careers?
I had some really fun friends,
Mhm.
really and truly. So I had a really good college friend that I kind of met. I knew I wanted to do something with food prep, cooking. And it just seemed like as I specialized and kind of I knew I didn't want to go work like in a commercial setting,
Mhm.
that I would want to do more in like the educational side, which I should have, I guess, picked up on then that, that's kind of where I am.
All right. Oh, that's called timeout on that. So your child, let's do the reverse. You know where you're at now. You're doing real estate and what you're making money in your lifestyle. Your child is making the choice or talking about. I mean, I think many kids go to college. They don't know they don't have enough experience or what they really like or want. Right. So knowing what you know now, would you have guided your child, if they were you, to the commercial side of cooking or the educational side?
The educational.
You think so?
Yeah, still to this day. And I think it's because I just love to learn. Like
Mhm.
I love to know because I know I don't know that I
Mm.
love to just keep knowing.
Right.
Like I always want to, I guess I'm just weird.
Okay. Now I'm just, I asked that question because obviously my vision, and I'm not a cook or anything, but obviously going the commercial side, I grew up with one gentleman I know who, I don't know if he's still working for Marriott, but for a long time, obviously he became a very top, chef in that area. And those guys can make big
Hmm.
amount, I wouldn't say big amounts of money. They make a good living if you're really good at your craft, where the educational side, just like teaching in a school, it's only restricted to how much people are willing to pay to take your classes, right?
Right. And, there was a time where I probably would have been frustrated with it. But looking back, I mean, I guess I've kind of just gotten comfortable with that's who I am, and you know what, embrace it and just
Okay.
go forward.
So
So
you go into physical therapy, that you end up going to the St. Augustine, I think I
University of St. Augustine.
University of St. Augustine Health Center. So you go finish at LSU. What
Uh-huh.
brings you to Florida?
They were doing a program where you could start 3 different times a year. Like, they
Mhm.
had a January start, a May summer start, and then a fall start. And the way my LSU years had fell, and for me
Mhm.
to get my prereqs, I wasn't gonna be able to get all my prereqs done until December.
Mhm.
And so I didn't wanna have to wait. LSU school only was taking 1 class a year, and they started, like, that following fall.
Mhm.
So I didn't wanna have to wait around months to start.
Sure.
So my dad was like, "Hey, I heard or we saw a flyer or something about St. Augustine," and my parents and I went down to they were speaking out in New Orleans, and so we drove down to New Orleans for the night, went to the seminar, and my dad looked at me, he's like, "I think you should do it." I was like, "Well, okay, well, let's go." My mom, on the other hand, was trying to be very supportive, but at the same time was not taking the fact that her daughter was gonna move 10 plus hours away.
Right.
'Cause I was always the kid that like, I cried when they dropped me off for sleepovers. Like, I was the kid that up until almost high school, I was calling my mom to come get me. Like, I was that kid,
Right. Right.
not confident at all. So, yeah, and then just kind of things started snowballing from there, I guess.
So you end up spending a reasonable period of time in physical therapy
Yes.
with different companies. I didn't write them all down.
Oh,
Not that there
good,
was
I'm
a lot of
glad.
them. Oh, I
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
was there? Okay. Your LinkedIn was abbreviated then.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah. So we zoom forward. You're doing physical therapy. We're now, and I don't know if this is because I'm just looking at the dates you entered real estate as far as your LinkedIn's concerned in 2020,
Mhm.
as we are into COVID.
Yeah.
Is so I'm assuming, and then you tell the story. Does that have a part of the reasons why you get out of physical therapy, or were you already looking for a way out?
So I was already looking for a way out. I got my license back in 2018. I had just had Sawyer number 3. I had gone on a ski trip like the year before, and it's all Jackie Darby's fault. And she laughs to this day because we still joke about this. She's like, "You should go get your real estate license." Because we were talking about how I wasn't happy in physical therapy, and if you look at my background, you can see like I job hopped and trying to find where I fit, and it
Was
was
it
all.
the office, or was it what you were doing at that particular
I
office?
think it was a combination of all of the above,
Mhm.
and and my husband Lane can tell you, I have a bad, bad reaction when people tell me what to do.
Mhm.
And so I don't like to be told I can't do something. And so within, of course, restrictions. But so I think that's part of what it was. And I just got tired of working for somebody else.
Mhm.
And I wasn't brave enough to, and I knew what healthcare was becoming, that I was scared for us to kind of go out on our own with our own PT
Right.
clinic because, my husband does the same thing. So Jackie was like, "You can go get it. You can just leave it inactive." All right, fine. So I did it and sat inactive, sat inactive. And then 2020 came, COVID came. Same time, I'm working in a nursing home. Great, right? COVID starts and I'm in a nursing home working. Lose a contract. I was working for a contract that was providing the therapy services in the nursing home, and the contract did not get renewed. I had to go fight for my job, reapply, and everything, didn't get the job. So here I am, 3 kids at home, the 2 older boys, no elementary school, Sawyer, no daycare. And I'm like, well, and then Lane is hustling, trying to do as best he can with telehealth and keep his clinics going. And so I'm like, well, all right, well, might as well try this real estate gig and get it. And it was so funny, so serendipitous, whatever.
Mhm.
Luckily, they had extended the dates to do the renewals because I had like 2 days. Like I had decided to do this, and then I
Right.
realized within 2 days that my license was gonna expire. But luckily, they had extended it, so I
Right.
hurried up and got all my continuing
You so you
education.
have to go back and take the test.
Yeah, so I didn't
Yeah.
have to go back and take it again. So I, like, crammed for 2.5, 3 weeks and got all my Con Ed, I met with Gina, and I was like, "Hey, Gina, look," I was like, "This is what I wanna do," and I had known Gina from previously, from before, and I was like, "Look," I was like, "I'm gonna try to make a run at this, what do you think?"
Mhm.
And she was like, "I think you're gonna do great." And I was like, "Well, okay, then hope you're right."
We mentioned before, your husband's family
Mhm.
had been in real estate, actually had that Century 21 franchise for many years before that.
1919.
So obviously, I mean, you were married for over a decade at this
Yeah,
point, right?
12 years. We had
12
been
years.
married, or I'm sorry, 11 years, because it was 1 year less than my PT.
Right.
So, yeah, so 11 years.
Yeah. So you had been kind of seeing what's going on
Mm.
in there. I mean, so when you were kind of battling before, I mean, how many times did you think about getting into real estate before you actually did
Oh gosh, probably every 3 months
it?
after I got I passed my test and went inactive. I can remember being outside the clinic in the morning on the phone with my mom being like, "Mom, maybe this is the time to jump. Maybe this is the time to jump." But always scared to make the jump.
Right.
Here we are, we have a young family, 3 kids, within 7 years apart. Within 7 years we had 3 kids.
Hmm.
So, I was always scared, because I always had the mentality of you have to have a steady income, you have to provide for your family.
Well,
And
there's no, I mean, I think everyone goes through what you were going through, and many will retire miserable. I mean, there's no, I mean, it's a fact. I mean, there's nothing that's not new news out there. And just to kind of plug the event that's on Wednesday with Heather Monahan, and I don't know if you saw the thing, we'll talk about it at post show. But that but she actually got forced to make her change. She got fired
Huh?
by the daughter of the guy who owned the company. He got ill and kind of retired, so the daughter took over, and he didn't like the other woman in the executives, or she didn't like the other woman in the executive suite and fired her. So she was kind of like forced, thrown out on the ice, so to speak, to make those changes. But she talks about the fear. And the fear, and then we're going to talk about on Wednesday. And this one of the first things is she uses a phrase, and it's not hers. She clearly makes that clear. Fear is a liar, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is such a oh gosh, I could go way, way deep into that. So,
Yeah, we will on Wednesday afternoon. So hopefully you can make it
oh,
over there at Landmark. We're actually going to do it's a virtual podcast. I'm doing the podcast with Heather, but we're going to hopefully save some time where my goal is to save some time. So some people in the audience who want to interact with her can. But I mean, I read both. I've listened to both of her books, and I'm re-listening to her second one like a third time, getting prepared for my questions and so forth. But anyway, but that fear that everyone has, that's the thing. And fear is a liar, and you have to make that step out. And one of the things that she talks about, and I've heard all of us talk about, some of our biggest holdbacks are some family members. I can't believe you had that because the family was in the business.
the family was like over the moon supportive.
Mm.
Everybody was supportive but me. Like I was the one that was I was the one that was actually holding me back. I'll take full blame for Bobby and Carol have been nothing but, and I could not have done what I have done
Mhm.
without, and all those supporting characters behind me. Like there's no way I could not have done it without Lane's support, Bobby's support, Carol's support, and all those other people in that office that have picked me up when I have done some dumb things, when I didn't have the confidence. I truly, and my mom and dad, like
Mhm.
I
So,
couldn't have done it without them.
you know where you're at now. You're 2.5 years in, and the
Yep.
success you've had. Looking back at that fear, and at that time, you probably couldn't actually articulate what you were fearing because you hadn't actually like gone through the steps that
Mhm.
you do today. But what was it that actually was that pushed you out of the comfort zone that gave you that fear and making that leap? Or was it just simply, I don't know if I may not ever sell a home and we'll have to eat bread and water. I don't know.
I literally felt like my back was to the wall, and there was a pit in my stomach, the thought of trying to go back into an office job.
Mhm.
Like, the fear of being so unhappy, and poor Lane, we would always laugh he would laugh at me because you could tell, like, Sunday evening, like, my mood would change because I knew I had to go to work Monday.
It's like going to school on
Is
Monday.
exactly, exactly, which I don't like. I don't mind school, like, I love school. If I didn't have to take tests and do projects, I would love school. Huh. I don't even mind tests, I just don't like project, which is so funny, but I just finally got tired of s
Mhm.
and I was like, "Okay." And I really took it as a leap of, "You know what? And God is telling me that I need to go do something." Like, there's something else in this world, that in this life, that is telling me, "You've got to do this. This is where you need to go right."
Okay, so you make this leap.
Uh-huh.
How many times, according to the numbers, you did like 4 deals in 20.
Yeah.
So and it was less somewhere, what is it, May, June or something that you made the jump. So your first 6 months, you do a few deals, so not bad, which is more than above average already there. But how many times during that first 6 months did you go, maybe I should go back. Maybe I should go back.
Maybe I mean, there was maybe 2 or 3 times that I got whenever, like, so my first deal was supposed to close, and then I had to do, like, my very first deal had an extension. And I was just, what have I done?" Like, like, well, the first 3 months, honestly, like, I was just so busy trying to get caught up and trying to figure out what I was doing. And then I got COVID, so then that put me out. But, yeah, I just maybe, like, less than a handful of times. It wasn't until 2021 that I actually was like, "Oh, whatever." Like, I think I was still just kind of riding the high, and
Mhm.
then I had some downtime in 21, and that's when it started to creep in, actually.
But overall, over the course of 21, I didn't write down exact numbers for 21. You had a decent
I
21.
did have a
Well, you
decent 21. I was
yeah.
very surprised at the end of 21.
You've talked to many people actually been on recently that have been rookie of the year in their brokerages and literally didn't do anything for the first 5 or 6 months before they got their first sale. But it was the last 6 months that the business came to them and ended up getting rookie of the year because of their production just in the 6 months. How making that for, obviously well over a decade working, getting a paycheck every other week or whatever, to now going, okay, I go months without a paycheck. but then I might have a bunch of paychecks all in a row. How is your mindset in handling that?
Luckily, one of my previous jobs, I only got paid once a month. Got
Mhm.
paid at the beginning of the month, and I remember then how you had to just kind of
Budget it out.
budget it out, and so I was very intent and focused in the beginning of having a good idea of where my expenses are and watching them, and having an idea of, okay, even if I have to side hustle something for a few months, I know that I have to make this in order to break. So kind of always knowing that, I
Mhm.
guess, kind of helped.
Well, and you said your husband was in the same business, so he probably got paid very
Yeah.
similar as well.
And yes, I had the benefit of having a spouse that had a regular check. So I mean,
Mhm.
it did take some of the pressure off. And he was always the bigger financial support in our relationship anyway, because I was not working maybe all of the 40 hours, because I was the one that was happy to take them to daycare, to sports, to whatever.
Right.
That was kind of like my contribution.
All right. So you're at Century 21.
Hmm.
What was it? Your grandfather-in-law's
My father-in-law,
was
oh, Lane's great grandpa,
yes. What was his name?
John T.
John T. Ferreira.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're over there. Now you're a family member, you're in the business. Now, one of the things I always talk about with a lot of the agents is that first brokerage, right? How you get started? What did you grab a mentor, or did they quickly put you into, all right, hey Miranda, this is what you need to do, A, B, and C
Mhm.
in execute. What was the atmosphere for you in this case, going and working with family who have been doing it for decades? How was the structure to get you off the ground and get your business going?
They kind of just let me take the lead, really
Mhm.
and truly. It was really nice. They kind of just let me do. They said, "Hey, this is kind of where you need to be." They gave me the onboarding, the education that I need to get myself in trouble. And then, they were always like, "We're here as a reference, we're here as a resource." Like I said, Jackie has just been just like she's just been immeasurable in what I've been able to learn from her and all that she has given me. Gina, Dean, I mean, really and truly, Jim and Mary Caserta. I mean, I could name the whole office.
Right.
Like, they were just so welcoming.
So they took you in like family
Right.
and didn't really like put you to the grindstone, but they were there as resources and
Hmm.
mentors and so forth.
Yeah, they kind of just let me go. They're like, okay, just call us if you need us.
Okay.
And there
So
I
they
went.
let you go out. They let you kind of take a leap out of the nest and see if you'd fly
Yes.
without actually mm, letting telling you have to flap your wings a little bit.
Right. They didn't put the bumpers on like in
Yeah.
bowling.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some things that you did initially, and then that, I'm assuming they gave you some feedback or helped you
Yeah.
mold it, and you probably made some, I use the word mistakes, but in other words, things that didn't bear fruit for you. So tell us about some things that you were doing early that didn't bear fruit, and you haven't done again. If there are any things, especially in that, I would say 6 months, 6 months to a
Hmm.
year before you really start getting going. I imagine you did a few things that just didn't.
Yeah, so the first thing I remember, one of the very first things I did was, "Oh, I'm going to educate all these for sale by owners at how wrong they are." And that's a terrible idea looking back. And so I made this huge like pamphlet handout for them. And so I'm sending it to all these for sale by owners, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna get a farm." That was the thought. And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna make these really cool postcards and send it to everybody, and they're gonna call." That was a terrible idea. No direction whatsoever.
Mhm.
I spent too much time, too much money doing something way too wide. Um,
Mhm.
that was probably one of my first,
So how
like,
long?
screw
So
ups.
okay. So how long does this take before? Because you said wide. So that means you narrowed it down in your
Yes.
mind somehow. How long did it take you before you're like getting some feedback and saying, how do I need to, yeah, really put a focus on this?
Probably about 3 months, 2 to 3 months. I was expecting, my phone to just start ringing off the hook,
Mhm.
and crickets. And so I was like, "Okay, obviously this is not working. So let's try something else."
Mhm.
And I'm very much a throw the spaghetti at the wall, let's see what happens kind of
Well,
person
so
at first.
so you had a lot of experience around you,
Yes.
right? People who you want to hang out with, right? Again, I'm going to go back to Heather Monahan because I've been studying her so much. She says, and we're going to ask this on Wednesday, don't take advice from people who aren't where you want to be,
Right.
right? And you had all these people where I assume that at least their production was where you would like to be,
Yes.
right? From that standpoint. So when do you start like kind of picking their brains?
So probably starting at the end of 2020, like when I got that I felt like I had to kind of get that first contract under my belt.
Mm.
I remember they walked in on a floor duty. They were the cutest little couple. I still talk to them to this day. I love them. But I think it was after that that I started talking to everybody and kind of just read, and that's kind of where the student in me kind of
Hmm.
came in, is that I started listening to these podcasts and start looking at things. And then I was like, oh, okay. And so then that's when I started bouncing ideas off of everybody. Started figuring out. So here we are post COVID, and I'm trying to figure out exactly, social distancing and all this other stuff, but trying to, do open houses again and stuff. Like I was doing open houses in the fall of 2020, trying just to get used to being in front of people, which is so funny because you would think for 12 years having, you know, done physical
Physically
therapy,
therapy, yeah.
I would be
Get
fine.
up close and personal, basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it took until 2021 where I really figured out, okay, you don't have to be what the stereotypical realtor, is. Just chill out and relax,
Mhm.
and they'll start coming to you. And I think it was like I said, spring summer 2021 that I just kind of was like, okay, look, this is kind of what I am. Let's
So
just
what are
embrace
some
it.
of the actions you're taking now that you're gesturing towards? Tell us some, like, I started doing this, started showing up here. What are some things that you were doing?
So really understanding my market,
Mm.
really being super focused on that. I was for a time being too wide, so really narrowing in my focus, trying to learn all that is in my area, kind of the stay in your lane kind of deal. Calling people, following up, not saying I'm going to do something, or really trying to be consistent. That has been kind of like, and you'll see my word for 2023 is connection and focus. I guess that's two words. But really kind of honing in on setting expectations, in trying to know what I can and cannot exceed, and
Like,
being a
say,
little bit more honest.
like, give us an example. What are you?
So, for instance, like right now, I'm working on something, and the feedback I got from the sellers was like, "Hey, we want a little bit of this, this, and this." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "I'll have it to you. I'll have that to you by Monday." And then I kind of went back to him, and I was like, "Look, you know what? In order to do a really good job, I can't have it to you by Monday. Like, I can have it to you by Thursday,
Mm.
but I want to be able to do justice to it, with everything else I have scheduled. I cannot give it the full attention and it will be complete by Thursday." And kind of setting that expectation and being like, okay, setting some boundaries.
Right.
Forget where I picked
'Cause
it up.
we're always afraid we're going to disappoint them,
Right.
right? If we want to tell them, yes, we're going to get on it right now. We'll have it to you within the hour. We'd love everybody to tell us that, whoever we're dealing with.
Right.
But with reality, if they're any good, that person's got something scheduled right now that you're on the list.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and I don't mean it to sound mean or bad
Right.
or blowing off or whatever, but I sometimes only get one shot. And I understand that I only have one shot. And I need to go ahead and be truthful up front and be like, "Hey, look, I'm gonna give you my best, but I need time to prepare. I want to give you the best, because that is my goal, is to do a good job where when we walk away, you're like, wow, that was good quality service."
All right. Now we're getting in some good stuff here. All right. Not that the other
And
stuff wasn't good.
it only took like
This is
30,
getting
45
good
minutes.
now. So you're really drilling down on what is in. I assume you're doing this because this is what's getting you business.
Yes,
Whether it's getting someone to refer you or past client to come back, whatever the goal of this focus is that you're working on and narrowing it down, is because that is the sweet spot.
yes. I can't tell you how many times I've heard wow, the other realtor we had, "Oh, didn't do it like this," or, "Oh, I didn't know that. No
Mhm.
one ever told us this," or you name the stereotypical, whatever you hear. I didn't want that. And I kind of took it really personally. Like, I live in an area where my husband grew up, my father-in-law grew up. I don't want to disappoint them. And I know that I have to hold myself to that standard because, like I said, the Ferreiras have given me so much and built upon what my mom and dad had
Hmm.
already given me that I don't want to disappoint them. And so that's kind of what drives my desire to give quality.
So back to what we were talking, probably what I kind of brought up 5 or 10 minutes ago, whatever it was, the being in that office with your family, they didn't come in and say, "Okay, Miranda, you need to do this for the first
Mm-mm.
90 days. You need to do that."
Nope.
And I'm not taking that away because a lot of people do need that. 100%. Her situation, she's different. She's surrounded by family members that have known her for over a decade. And you're looking up to them, just the natural progression of your learning. They allows you to see what they were doing. Because I imagine, you said you didn't want to let them down, and you wanted to keep this level of professionalism, because eventually you started to actually understand why they were doing
Mhm.
certain things.
Yes, and then, I just kind of like so I close a few deals, they really and truly I learned in physical therapy, communication. If you're not getting the we all listen different, the right message to the person and really understanding, you've lost that patient, just like you've lost this client.
Mhm.
So, really focusing and honing in on that and just kind of going from there.
So yeah, so make that bridge for us, because I think a lot of people who haven't made major changes in their career, as you have, going from two different, totally different
Mhm.
aspects. But the I always like to touch on everyone's previous careers
Mhm.
and what they learned there and what they brought forward. So kind of make it simple for us to understand what your attitude and your ideology of how you treated that physical therapy client, to now your how you take that same experience and take it over. And it's not just, I was doing X and so I do X over here, but your understanding to create the new ideology of how you handle a customer in the real estate realm.
So the best way I can, so when in physical therapy, I get patients that are pre-op, post-op, just general education, but
Mhm.
really and truly, anyone that works in physical therapy will tell you chronic pain folks are a very difficult population because there's so many, like Shrek said, the onion, so many layers. There's my showing that I have kids. So it's that population of figuring out exactly, like we know they have a pain. And so for buyers and sellers, it's, a mortgage for a buyer or, selling that home that you've lived in for 20 plus years. Understanding what their pain point is, what they're expecting to be able to get out of is is how you kind of break through their barriers and get on a level where you're able to understand, get message across. So I guess that maybe answers the question.
Well, yeah, okay, so it's half. I think you're halfway there. You're break because you really want to understand, that physical therapy, their chronic pain. When does it hurt? How does it hurt? Where exactly is it hurting? I assume are some of the things that you
Mhm.
want to know.
Well, and
So
also
how do you, and then
and
take that to real estate.
okay, but they gotta understand too that they're gonna always have some of that pain.
Mhm.
And so in teaching buyers and sellers, this is just a little moment in time that you're still gonna have, like for buyers, yes, you're gonna have this new mortgage, but look at what you're going to have. You're gonna have this new source of equity and wealth. And this is how you like, especially first time
Mhm.
homebuyers, this is how you start the process. This is how you learn how to move again after your debilitating injury. This is how you move up to, instead of a 3-bed, 2-bath, to move up into that 4-bed, 3-bath, how to build wealth.
Mhm.
For sellers, it's okay. You're worried about your retirement. Yes. Well, look, you've had this home for 20 years. Look at what the market has done the past 2 years. You can take this huge nest egg that you have and give it to your financial advisor, your
Mhm.
CPA, your those folks, and let them turn this into something that's going to take care of you as you prepare for the next phase of your
Life.
life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to you and I, we're in the business. That's common sense, right? But we kind of because it's such common sense, we kind of assume that everybody actually thinks that way,
Right.
but they don't.
No, but it actually took me getting into this business to understand that. And I
Mhm.
had bought and sold 2 homes before I started doing this. And I still never had a true understanding of it until I got in here. So that's kind of what my focus is to educate, to show them that they can do this.
So you bring up a good point. Right now in this market condition, agents you're listening or just fans that are just listening in to hear what great business people like Miranda doing. This current market condition is forcing renters out of their homes.
Yes.
They can if the rents are going up. Some places it's just because of taxes have gone up a little bit, but I don't think that has anything to do with it. The owners, the landlords understand they can get that much more for rent because there's such a demand. We are short
Mhm.
millions and millions of homes in this
Mhm.
country. In this area here in Northeast Florida, good portion are right here because we do have good jobs. You know, the business climate is good. There's people want to move here. So there's obviously demand. People want to buy homes. Other people, they're not prepared to buy and they've been renting. Some people are career renters. They were never been pushed out of
Mhm.
their rental nest. Well, they're being pushed out of their rental nest now. And we have to understand that to go what Miranda says is kind of my rant today, but that's really you want to talk about market conditions. That is the market condition. Renters are being pushed out. That's the apps that we're taking right now.
And like I was blessed to live in a home where we didn't rent. Like my parents had a mortgage and I didn't understand that, but we always had a house. I didn't understand what this renting because where I'm from, everybody, or at least I thought, everybody owns their home, pays a mortgage, or it was passed down through generations.
Mm.
Are we educating those people? Like,
Mhm.
is there a gap somewhere in our ages where we don't really understand, and are we missing that group of education to be like, hey, this is again how you build your wealth. This is how you move up. This is how you move to the next level. You don't want to be.
Do you find people I catch you occasionally and then when I'm thinking about what the statements that we're making here right now, they go back and you talk to some of these people and they're like, oh well, 2008. Okay.
Oh, that's a
Um
totally different animal.
yeah, so house values obviously, got overinflated
Mhm.
for different reasons and it's a whole nother subject to talk about. And some people did, lose equity in
Mhm.
their time. But the other 99.9999999% of the other times that people have owned homes, whenever the first home was ever
Mhm.
purchased, have always gained equity
Yes.
over time.
Mhm.
1 month, you can't measure that, but 10 months or 10 years, you can really measure,
Mhm.
but we're all taught to invest in that 401k that we know on average is only going to gain 10%. Well, a couple of years ago, we were pushing
Mhm.
almost 20% returns. Now we're down, possibly even losing some months right
Mhm.
now, but the average is 10%. But so we blindly, faithfully, put in our 401ks every month. But some people are missing the gap that actually real estate, which is in every millionaires, billionaires
Folio.
portfolio, real estate, and that's where the wealth is at, and that's what we're talking about, and,
Yep.
and educating people that you have now's the time to make the move. Now's the time to make every day. If you look back, oh well, I should have bought 24 months ago. Yeah, so but you
Well,
can buy today. So
exactly.
let's
It just
get you
may
in a
take a
home.
little longer, or
Yeah.
you may not make the quite the number that you were
Hmm.
thinking, but it work in a positive, work in a
Yeah.
positive.
Yep. 100%.
And real estate is, that's the saying. Real estate is always cyclical. That's the big saying.
All right, let's tap in here and let's dig into some of
All
my
right.
questions because we've been just
I'm
talking.
about
All
to
good
say.
stuff though. All really good stuff actually. Tell me a little bit about how you attack and what you see the future of social media. Some people have grasped it and been doing it for a while, and I think they're ahead of a lot of others. But if you haven't even started social media, doesn't mean that you can't be caught up with everybody else within, say, 6 months of doing the right things in there. What is your attitude, or do you have a marketing strategy in your social media?
My strategy is just to just be who I am. Once you see is what you get. No,
Be authentic.
I'll be authentic is my big thing. I joke all the time. And I stole this from somewhere. I'm perfectly imperfect. So to let someone else know that, let them connect with you. Like I posted a dish rack Jenga one day, where you drying the dishes and you stack them up and they go higher and higher and higher. And you
Uh,
wait for them to fall over. Like when you're unloading the dishwasher.
Yeah.
I was like,
I do
here's
that. I do
here's a
the
little
dishes
dish
at
rack
home.
Jenga for today. Just to show people, that
You're real.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
real and I understand your problems. And so
Mhm.
that's what helps because I mean, this is their biggest asset. So to get them to trust me and to know that I understand them
Mhm.
is one way I do it is social media. Try to post, try to be authentic, but try to educate, try to keep focus and clarity.
Yeah.
We hear a lot of negative, but but that's in anything. You always hear the negative before the positive.
Right.
Let's focus on the positive.
Well,
Let's see what we hear.
well, if you're gonna get someone to remember, to me, you have to strike some sort of emotion. So obviously, the media uses negativity to
Right.
attract people. Oh my God, the whole world's coming to an end. Boom, everybody's gonna watch, right?
Hmm.
Where I think in our world, we get a lot more with sugar than we do with the spice, from the standpoint of, this is an inspirational story. This is a great restaurant. Hey, I'm at home having fun with the kids. I see a lot of agents do that part, putting out there that they're real and they're out in the marketplace and being authentic. Her Jones had her on the show. She's a
Hmm.
keynote speaker. I'm going to botch her statement, and I think she might have stole it from someone, but it's not how much. It's not about being approved. It's about how much you're improving. That's not perfectly what she said, but we were talking about social media. Get on there and do it. Our friends and family do not want us. They don't expect us to be perfect. They know us. They know
Exactly.
we're going to stutter. They know we're going to whatever fumble over. Or everyone always has a word that they just cannot pronounce correctly. you know, we're
I'm
going
from
to do
South
that.
Louisiana. I do that a lot.
Yeah. So, be authentic, be you, and that's where people bond. Because if you're watching this right now, this video, your brain is not differentiating whether Miranda and I are in the same room with you talking to you live or you're watching the video. Your brain doesn't differentiate. So be authentic out there because that's how you build the relationship.
Yes, and it's free advertising.
Yeah.
It's free advertising and it's free education about your community.
Hmm.
I mean, somebody wants to know, like, if I have a family that's relocating from the Northeast, what better way to learn about what's going on than to watch? Oh, I'm at my kid's flag football game. This is where we are. Show you how nice our park is.
Right.
You know?
Right. Or yeah, these are the activity. I mean, because people like just assume if they don't see it, you don't even know what you know, right? If they
Exactly.
don't physically see it, you might just hit on a thing that their child is about the same age and they want to, what kind of sports are there going to be any sports for them there? I mean, biggest challenge for me was my parents moved to Cape Cod. They didn't realize there was no football.
Isn't that a baseball town?
I'm Cape Cod has a great summer college baseball. Yeah. Yes. Baseball in the summertime, but my high school I went to did not have football.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
So my brothers were playing, they're 7 years older. Then we moved to Cape Cod. They stopped playing football. And obviously, as big as I am, yeah. Later on, another story.
Yes.
Maybe they didn't know. I don't know. I don't think they knew. I don't think they realized. I think like most people like, well, every school's got football. No, that's not true. They do now, though. However, for those of my classmates that might be listening from high school there. Hey folks, this episode was produced by Streamline Media, the #1 media company for helping brands generate content that converts. I knew I wanted to start a podcast to reach more people and bring value to the world, but I did not have the time or the knowledge. Streamline Media became my secret weapon to building my show. They handle all my back-end work, production, and strategies to keep my show going strong. If you're in the real estate business and looking to make content that generates more leads and brings in more revenue, check out the Streamline Media link in the show notes and discover how partnering up can supercharge your path to real estate excellence. I Chat GPT, are you using it?
No, I'm not
Artificial
using it. No,
Okay.
I'm not using it yet.
All right. So what I did is I've been doing here is I have my kind of generic questions, get the background and you get the feel. But then I asked Chat GPT to create some interesting thought-provoking questions. So this is what I did. I said, I need 10 very interesting, thoughtful, and thought-provoking questions for a podcast interview with a top producing real estate agent. She's only been in the business for 3 years, but is producing at a high level. So this is the questions, and
Oh,
I'm
boy.
gonna pick a few questions out of here.
This is gonna get dangerous.
I like this one here. Can you share some of the most innovative and creative marketing strategies you have used to generate leads and attract new clients? What's the Miranda way? Because I know you have one because you probably took a little bit and made it your own.
Yeah, I just in trying to get people to kind of just relax around me. I feel like, as soon as I never lead off with, "Hi, I'm a realtor."
Mm,
I always try to just like introduce myself as so and so's mom.
mm,
And or, "Oh, hey, I see you're limping. I used to be a PT. What's going on?" So like
right.
I connect to people some other way and they're like, "Oh, well, what do you do now?" "Well, I sell real estate." And then I kind of joke about it. I'm like, "I do what everybody else in Florida does. I sell real estate." And
So where are some
which I feel
places
like
just to dig into that a little bit? So where are some places that you create those conversations? It sounds like you obviously do it at the ball field.
on the ball field. I mean, I have 3 boys in 5 sports this spring.
Right.
So, I mean, if I'm not on the ball field, a lot of times it's, just kind of hanging out with past, I still have friends from the PT world that I'll hang out with occasionally. And, "Oh, well, we'll bring so and so along with us." And then you just kind of start that conversation.
Hmm.
That is where I get my best referrals and my best business is just kind of just hanging out one on one and just, you know,
So
sometimes over a barbecue
a
or
topic that
something.
commonly comes up in your 123 or 24th episode, common question is the top agents showing up. Now, showing up is a wide
Right.
word. It could mean a lot of different things. But for me, the simple thing is you got to get out of your house.
Mhm.
You got to go out and you show up places and you create opportunities to have these conversations.
Mhm.
You instead of just dropping your son off at practice, you're you're probably trying to be there as much as you can, as we
Mhm.
want to as parents. But while you're standing there on the sideline or whatever, you're running into situations. Jordan Fair asked her this kind of question. So, what do you do when you're at the ball field? Because she has 3 sons, and she says, I wear a T-shirt that says something about me being a real estate agent. That's how she advertises.
Well, and sometimes I will admit, sometimes I'm in my car trying to catch up on work too, and then
Yeah.
I like, "Oh, sorry," and then, "Oh, well, what were you doing?" And then I have to give the whole, "Well, I was working."
Well, you've reached a level, the amount of production that you're doing that you have to dedicate some of that time to. Where if you're new and you don't really have anything else to do, you got maybe one deal in process, maybe you got to go out there and be in front of people, create the situations, create the even if it's Saturday night, come over for cocktails and invite all your friends, and maybe be the friends. Maybe you do it once a month. You're bringing over the same, but you have to stay. And I think that the next question is going to be is the word top of mind comes. What do you do to stay top of mind of these people that you do meet, or even your circles of influence that you and your husband have? To stay top of mind. You can't remember, hey, I'm in real estate. What do you do?
Again, I don't make real estate my first touch point.
Mhm.
I feel like, again, it just kinda sets up some barriers. When I'm thinking about you, I'm gonna text you. I try to remember that not everybody has the weird sleep schedule that I have of up at sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night and up at 5 AM.
Right.
So, with that, I try to just and Melissa Ricks gave me a good suggestion too, is just taking care of my people, just stopping in and being like, "Hey, I was in the neighborhood." I do pop-bys. I had found out that former client was having a baby. So I dropped off some diapers because I know every newborn is going to go through
Oh,
a
yeah.
bushel of diapers a day. Sometimes it's just something like just trying to hear what people are doing in their day-to-day lives and how can I make them smile. And part of my goal this year is just to kind of focus more on positivity. Kind of that whole same thing of, you don't see all the red cars on the road till you buy a red car kind of deal.
Mhm,
We only see what we think. And so I'm so tired of all the negativity that I'm trying to kind of be a little positive
mhm.
and focus on that. And that's
So
how I'm kind of connecting.
the pop by. So you maybe you're in a particular neighborhood, you're showing a house to someone, you leave there and you have sold another house in that neighborhood. You're gonna go by and just knock on the door to say hi because you're just starting to be 3 doors down,
Yeah.
looking at another house in the neighborhood.
Like, yeah, like that's what I would do. Like today, like I came down here to St. John's
Mhm.
and then I know I have 2 closings that I've had in the past couple of years on the west side of Jax. I'll just go back on the west and on my way back up
Just
and
do
I'll
a quick
stop
stop by.
and just sometimes it's a card, sometimes it's flowers, sometimes it's a $5 gift card somewhere, and sometimes I do a
Now,
lot of food because I like to eat.
my gut feeling is a lot of people have fear of that because you don't really know, did that person like me? Did, was the transaction as great as obviously it seemed to be? Were they disappointed? Should I reach out to that past client because obviously you're doing a stop by and, you probably drop in there, hey, let me know if you have any friends or family who can help me or I can help. You throw a line like that to remind them, I live off
Mhm.
referrals. That's your gentle way of doing it. But I would bet 99% of the agents out there would not bother to do what you're going to do when you leave here to go the west side because it's going to take you a little bit longer. It's not the direct route home. And
No.
but the reality is you're going to take, probably 30 minutes out of your day today and stop by a couple people, knock on your door because really, if every person you transacted with gave you one referral, where would that take your business, right?
I'd be set.
Yeah.
I'd be set.
Yeah.
And eventually that would be my goal is to totally be a referral based, past customers, client sphere
Mhm.
type of business. Because
So
that's when I know I've done a good job.
are you buying leads now, or what other ways are there any non organic ways of lead generation?
So this year I finally broke down, got my own website. So I am doing some Google pay per click. I am doing some social media advertising. I got so mad last year. I bought leads last year and I got so mad at them. Like a lot of it was just like not necessarily like I understand that when I buy leads, sometimes they're 6 month, 9 month, 12
Mhm.
plus month down the line. I understand that. But some of them were just totally out the box. And I was
Mhm.
just like, you know what? I'm spending way too much on this.
I literally had a customer through our Loan Depot's 800 line call in. I took that lead, and he only owed $27,000 on his home. He wanted to get a loan out so he could pay off the current mortgage and cancel his insurance. 'Cause the
Oh
insurance has
boy.
gone up so much. I said, "Well, sir, unfortunately, any loan that I could do for you is gonna lean on the house. You're gonna need insurance." Yeah.
Whoopsie.
Oh, alright, let's see what other good ones we have in here. Alright, this is a good one. What do you think are key traits or qualities that are necessary for success in real estate? Kinda relating, obviously, you've done really well, so you found your niche, you focused in, which I think is key, and if you wanna make a point on that, is to find out what your sweet spot is in prospecting and so forth. But, you know, if someone's going to get in the real estate agent being a real estate agent, what are some things they need to understand? And like I said, what key traits and qualities, not that they're born with it, they can learn this stuff. This is
Mhm.
not, there's a lot of different people doing real estate. Introvert, extrovert, all this, whatever.
Right.
What do you think a couple of those key things that they need to understand or traits?
Have thick skin. You have to not take it all personally. You have to understand why you're doing something. Be honest with yourself and your clients and have thick skin. Like, and you've got to understand that this is going to be hard sometimes.
Hmm.
That you've got, and you are the only one that you have to answer to. And that's a blessing and a curse.
Yes, yes.
Because there have been days where I've kind of realized I was like, oh, wait, I'm still in my gym clothes and it's, 11 o'clock. I should be out doing something else.
Hmm.
Because, and that's the other thing too, is that you've got to remember this is not an immediate return on work business. I mean, I have business now, but I've been working this business for, these current clients for 6 months.
Hmm.
So understanding, having patience, having thick skin, being honest, and being able to have honest, hard conversations. So definitely have to
All right,
communicate.
I've got to dig into that one. All right. Give me an example. Tell us a story of one of those hard conversations that you can think of maybe recently that you've had
Man,
with a client. Because what is our first fear, right? Fear is a liar. What's the first fear that we have? The first
rejection.
fear is that the first fear is they're going to tell you, "Screw you. I'm not working with you because you just told me the truth and I don't want to hear."
Never forget. I drove all the way down here, had a listing seller's consult scheduled. Went, toured, talked to the homeowners. cute little nice couple and anything. And I told them, I was like, well, this is what I think. I think you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I think this is where your price point is. Well, that's kind of low of what we were thinking. And, this is you
So how recent month are we talking this approximately?
right before it slowed down. So this was like May, June-ish.
Okay.
So right before, like it was starting.
Yeah,
Some
rates
of
are
us were
starting
starting
to
to
run ahead.
see the writing on the wall, but still most consumers had not.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I was like, I look forward to hearing, but they kind of were like, yeah, we're going to keep going, keep going, keep going. And a little while later, I just happened to be perusing on realtor.com and there's the listing. And I was like, man, I missed that one. But then I looked at what they had it listed at. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I didn't miss that opportunity because then I watched that property and it just, you know. So that is one example. And then two, I mean, I've had the conversation where, well, so and so is going to do it for less. Well, okay, but are you going to be happy with said service?
Oh,
Okay.
I love this subject.
Yes. So, the ever so, I mean, and I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do for you. And even though I'm giving you at this, I'm still, this is how I do. Well, so and so said they can do the same thing for less. Are you going to cut your commission? No, I can't cut it. I was like, no, I have to run this like a business. And if I cut too much, I don't go out of business. And I forget where I found this somewhere on somebody's podcast video, something.
Yep.
And they were like, you don't go to your doctor. You don't go to a lawyer. You don't go to all these other professionals. You don't even go to a PT and say, hey, you know what? So-and-so down the street, I need you to cut your fees by half. You know, it's only in certain businesses that people are like, no, I'm going to try to cut it down, cut it down, cut it down. I'm like, okay, well, cut it down, but are you going to be happy with the discounted price? You know? So, and I don't know, I just
Did
had
you
that.
win? Did you get that client?
No.
Not get that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
So those are two losses I had. And
You could have easily, you could have, said, okay, yeah, I'll match theirs and not had, pushback. And obviously they're going to have your service, which obviously with your production must be good. Obviously I haven't personally experienced Miranda selling my house or anything or buying a house with her.
are you thinking about buying or something?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. I kind of like my existing home. If I try to buy my square footage in a new construction.
Yeah, right, huh?
Okay, good. Yeah. So this is an interesting, I brought Kurt Stein was on with house scan inspections and in the agent, the first thing they ask him, he says a lot of, especially new agents, the first thing they ask him is how much you going to charge? And obviously in the lending world, what's the first question we generally get especially from an online lead or someone that just comes in, not referred, not, if Miranda says you endorse me and someone works with, they generally don't, start questioning, like what, but they don't know what else to ask. And I totally understand that. I totally understand it. So it's our job in our profession to actually educate them on their side of what they're actually getting. And I think that's where, and you probably went back and did I call it, I think it was, might've been John Maxwell. I don't know, some personal development plan, do, review. And you planned in there, you did your presentation. They asked you to discount. You told them the hard facts. I'm sure you went home and on your way home, you're going through your mind, how could I have better, positioned myself, right? How could you better put your value out? And I think real estate agents, you should not be asking house scan how much they charge for a home inspection. Are they good? That's all that matters. Are they good?
Or when can you do it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes you're in that situation. Are you good? And when can you do it? And there is a couple companies that, you probably could balance out in the area like that. You're working with a loan officer. I'm going to tell you right now, loan officers are falling out. Lenders are cutting back. We're margin compression. We want to offer low rates, but money costs more than it did yesterday.
Yeah.
So they're shortening their profits. So when you start trying to make, you focus on interest rates, you will live and die by it. Someone's always going to offer a slightly lower interest rate. The question is, what service are they cutting out?
Exactly. And it's what's sad is that in both of our industries, I feel like it's not until you've had a bad experience that you realize how important it is.
Yep.
Again, kind of going back to that, I can tell you, and you probably have heard the same thing. wow, you do this, and oh, you answer your phone? Well, yeah, that's what this thing is meant
Yeah,
to
isn't that
do. I mean, it
amazing?
rings and I'm supposed to answer it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mind boggled me for 17 and a half years in the business. Like, okay, the phone is ringing. That means there could be money on the
Yeah,
other end.
I'm like, yes, I should answer that because nobody wants to be in the dark. I mean, and just put yourself in somebody else's
Right.
place.
Right. I know of it's probably 50-50. There's probably a lot of loan officers like myself. We want to obviously put some sort of schedule up, but I know if you're calling me at 7:30 on a Saturday night, there's a reason.
Yes.
And if you have a relationship with your support vendors, as a home inspector or loan officer, whatever, they know you're calling for a certain reason. They know, hey, I need to get that inspection done like tomorrow. Can you pull me in? Because something else has happened to force that timeline. Like the
Mhm.
sellers have to close. They have to be out by the end of the month because they're getting transferred and their new home's closing. So you're doing a hot rush close. So you want to get the inspection
Mhm.
done like right now. And there's reasons for those things, not because you just want to be a pain in someone's tail and force them to get up and go outside their realm instead of scheduling you for 3 days out to schedule for 3 hours, that type of thing. And there's a
Yeah.
reason for that. And that's why you need to answer the phone because we, as whether a loan officer, title companies, the inspection companies, any of the support services to real estate, every transaction is different. We're not doing it for 60 days and have all this time. Sometimes they want to close in 21 days. So we got to do all
Mhm.
this other stuff, and do it quickly and make sure that, getting that stuff up front. So stop asking how much. If you
Yes.
don't like to be asked how much, don't be, you provide services. I'm just telling the real estate agents out there that are listening, stop asking how much
And to the
or what
realtors
interest
out
rate.
there, make it a make it apparent of
Hmm.
what you can offer.
Hmm.
Tell them why. Make them believe they don't all know. They don't know.
Well, I'll get it from you, because I've had different agents. Some express it. Some maybe we just didn't pull up the subject at the time. But Lindsay Osteen, we were talking
Mhm.
last week. Her and Jordan were on, and we were talking about even during the times when you're getting offers before you even put the sign in the yard, like it was,
Yeah.
a little over a year ago. You still want to go through the motions of doing a proper photos, doing those things because that's your brand. Because
Mhm.
now as it gets better, and now you are going out for that listing appointment, they're asking you to cut price. Says, hold on a second. Let me show you how I showed these other homes. Look
Mhm.
at these photos. This costs us so much. Now, if you don't want photos, you want me to just walk around your house with a cell phone, I can cut, whatever dollars out. I don't know what the listing edge charges to give a call out there to those guys. But yeah. So how important is when to do that full service, put the proper photos out in all the different things that you do as an agent, especially in the listing.
Well, and remember, you and I mean, because I can remember the day before the internet and before social media and all that, things don't just go away now.
Mhm.
If it's on the internet,
Yep.
somebody has seen it,
Yep.
and it's going to come back and haunt you.
You Google that address, it'll show you the
Mhm.
listing photos from the last person sold.
Yep. So you got to remember that what you do today is going to hang around now for a while. So you want to make sure that it is a good impression and not a negative impression.
Mhm. And you never know, and that's probably something to think about. The new buyers buy it, they might be in there 5 years, and we know this is a transient area. I mean, people
Hmm.
get transferred in, transferred out, especially if you're in the
Yep.
military and that sort of thing, to, you know, trickle on that new buyer, even though you represented the seller, is to trickle on that buyer, say, "Hey, look at those great photos I took of the home the last time. We're gonna update those." Some of those we probably could still use, whatever, type of thing, but, to because you're putting out quality, you're putting out that's your brand, and you wanna, follow that. That's a good point. It's on there forever.
Well, and not only that too, but educate them. How I marketed a home last year is a lot different than how I'm marketing a home this year.
Mhm.
Or,
Yes.
and even how I marketed in the first half of 2022 versus how I marketed at the end of 2022, two totally different scenarios.
That brings up a good point. Who are you? You mentioned Melissa Ricks because she's up in your zone up
Hmm.
there, and when these market conditions change, do you have a few people you kind of, there's always those people that are probably still in your office, but they're kind of close in proximity. You generally think too much alike. Do you have some people you call outside? You kind of get some feedback. Hey, what do you see?
I'm
What's going
starting to,
Mhm.
and that's kind of where I'm excited. But I don't talk to just to the realtors. I'll go and I'll take some of the title folks out to coffee, or I'll see them,
Mhm.
and just because we do live in a small town, we'll see them in different circles and places, and we'll talk about it. I will go out with title. I will go out with lenders. I'll go and talk to other agents. But yes,
Yeah.
I'm asking everybody.
Well, I mean, it answers one of the questions that ChatGPT came up with. It generally gives me this one on everyone is how do you stay abreast of market conditions? Now, there's obviously many industry journals and we can read a
Mhm.
lot of stuff online, but to really get a heartbeat of what's going on in the neighborhoods you're working is to talk to other support services or other
Mhm.
real estate agents in there. Only been in the business 2.5 years. Have you noticed, does it catch you a little bit how some of the top agents like a Melissa Ricks is very collaborative. They don't see, you are competition. They want to beat you. They hope they call them and so forth, but your circle is different than their circle. And someone in your circle calling you for a listing probably never even doesn't even know this other agent. How the top agents are more supportive and don't see each other as competition as much. They're willing to share, basically. Does that catch you a little bit?
Yes, it does, and it kind of shows me that they're in it for the right reasons. And if I lose to a Jackie Darby, a Melissa Ricks, or some of these other top agents in Fernandina and Amelia Island, it's because they're doing their clients very well
Mhm.
and they are getting their needs met. And so at the end of the day, we are a service industry, and if they are getting their needs met and they are happy, you know what? That's great for that person. Be happy for that person. You can only so I do coaching, I do Brian Buffini,
Mhm.
and so it one of his big sayings is that, you get to get a loaf, you have to get a in any case, I'm gonna butcher it, just but in any case, you have to give to get back.
Yes.
And that's what and
Yes.
so at the end of the day, as long as those people are happy and taken care of, you know what, it's gonna come mine is gonna come.
Well, I mean, those people you just mentioned in your area, they're raising the bar, right? And
Right.
you're willing to go with the bar. You're not chasing an interest rate. What's the lowest common denominator of it all? All of you are raising the bar, and you are in just a very natural capitalist way by providing a greater service. You push out those agents who are willing to do it on the cheap because they're only going to get one swing. They're only going to get one bite of the apple, so to
Right.
speak. Because you and I know if they're doing it on the cheap, they're cutting things. The customer experience is going to be lower, etc. Where those other agents that you're collaborating with, all of you guys are raising the bar in that area, and they're not discounting their services.
No, and but like I said too, at the end of the day, quality follows quality.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, when they continue to raise the bar for me to be competitive, I have to raise my stuff, and I want to keep doing this. I
Yeah.
I finally have found a place where I am so happy that I wake up in the morning excited. Not just because I get to send all three kids to school now, but I mean, trust me, there's a little bit of a happy dance there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get to have this amazing life.
Mhm.
Like, I get to help people and experience something that is sometimes the most happy and or the most sad at the same, kind of like that bittersweet moment, like that downsizer that, unfortunately, oh, mom and dad passed. Now we have to sell their house. Like, that's a sad moment. But
Mhm.
I get to help people through that. Like, I get to be the support that people have given me all these years.
Right.
And to show people that, you know, we don't all have to be whats. Like, we
Mhm.
can just be positive and be happy for each other.
So how many times do you reflect back, especially, these last roughly 24 months, you've done really well, and you look back and say, "Man, why didn't I start this like 10 years earlier?"
I do, but I don't think I was in the right mindset then.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't think I think it took me like, I'm just so happy of the journey I've been on. Like, it has just been an amazing journey, and I'm so glad I'm here, and would I maybe have made a few different decisions? Probably,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, I hope I would not have changed anything that got me here. Like, it has been a blast
Oh,
overall. Overall. There were a few moments that were rough.
What is Miranda's vision? Do you, right now, or you have a transaction coordinator, or you use one through the brokerage, or how is your, because with your volume, you're getting you must be getting some support somewhere.
Yeah. So, Gina and Dean have done a great job of kind of building a very supportive office for us.
Hmm.
We have just a front office admin type person. We have another back end person. We have our Erica who runs the office, and then I have a transaction coordinator through the office. Eventually, yes, I would like to expand to add a second agent. I see that coming probably, hopefully, in the next 2, 3 years ish, if not
Hmm.
before, depending on how things go.
So I expanded myself by getting some coaching back in 21, and expanded my mind in my business. But our businesses are too much different.
Mhm.
Like for me to now, if I wanted to be a sales manager, and obviously I'd have whatever amount of loan officers underneath
Mhm.
me. But as a loan officer, to like, hey, I want to recruit another loan officer, unless that person really actually, as loan officers I see as I do it, I'm the point of the spear, right? I'm out
Mhm.
prospecting. I actually make the phone ring, which is what you do. Now, if I had someone who's licensed and wants to sit in the office and help, the input and the follow up on the
Mhm.
paperwork, kind of like that transaction coordinator, but just so happens to be licensed in mortgages too, that really helps because they can actually lock in a loan, or I don't have to actually come in the office and do that. They can do it. Hey, we need to lock now, or whatever it is. That's a licensed officer. As another licensed real estate agent, what benefit is it to you, or you just want that assistance because the number of open houses you want to put a licensed person in there. What is the financial benefit of hiring someone who's actually going to be a real estate agent prospecting like you, versus maybe you're someone who's licensed and just working in the office for you and handling, going to an open house to sit it for you, but they're more on an hourly thing and maybe a little bonus, or commission wise.
I want so my thought process is that if they're just doing kind of like those supportive ancillary services,
Hmm.
that is someone that I need to have on payroll, but I want somebody to help me grow my payroll and be there when I am not. I mean, because let's be honest, we all want to go take
Yeah.
vacations. We
Yep.
all want to go spend time and do other things. I want to be able to add another professional so I can expand market share to continue to grow, in number of transactions, revenue, so on and so forth. To have someone that is licensed and capable to handle the problems that may come up. Say, if I have to, because my family is all still in Louisiana, if I have to go back home to Louisiana to see about something, I want to be able to say, okay, hey, you know what? Dig in my files. You got this. I'll be back. Just call me if you need me. But they can do it. They can write a contract and they can
I
negotiate.
guess I asked the question because eventually that person grows in the business, right?
Hmm.
And you know, there's some teams that have, if it's Miranda's team, and Sally joins the team. Sally, after a couple of years of being under you, and she acquires some of her own leads, and she's learning the business, sees what you're doing, she starts getting her production up. Eventually she's like, what do I need Miranda for anymore?
Well, I mean, that's how I continue to grow. I mean, you don't grow if you're not challenged. So I don't know.
Challenges of retention. It's just a grasp of the team concept that I have. I haven't quite got around to, unless you're fully like some of the great teams, like just Christine Welch, Sarah Rocco, CC, where they are generating. But then there's other brokerages or that have these guys that have teams that say, oh well, we're not producing anymore. Okay, then what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't I want someone that feels and can continue to be independent with the same growth mindset, because I want somebody that's independent because that is how,
Right.
if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So I'm not, I don't know, it's still
Well,
marinating.
the bottom line of our conversation, we're just feeling through our different thoughts, is this business is done so many different ways.
Oh, yes, of course.
Every agent, every team, like the three ladies I just mentioned, all three of them run their
Yeah,
teams totally different.
totally different. Yep.
Melissa Ricks, totally different than those 3 women
Mhm.
and that sort of thing that so to kind of understand what type of team are you trying to develop, and getting a grasp of that and understanding how it's actually going to fall through. Because I think the biggest thing, then and those 3 ladies that I mentioned, retention is the biggest thing for them.
Mhm.
How do you retain? Because you train these people up, you get them up to a level, then they're like, oh, what do I need you guys for anymore? I'm going to just go out here and do my own, which happens. It does happen. But obviously, the goal of someone who's trying to create it, when you can keep that offensive line together for a
Mhm.
longer period of time, they play better together.
Except for the Eagles last night.
They did well. They did well. I'm not a Eagles fan.
Everybody did well. I need my team to fund my retirement one day. I would like to retire
Mhm.
eventually.
Well, eventually, Miranda is the name. Your brand gets your production is up there, and your reputation
Mhm.
gets up there. At some point, like you said, you're going to step back. You're more or less taking a referral fee because you're handing it off
Right.
to these other people who are under on your team selectively. Did anything we not cover today that you want to say about the team, say about you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I did a pretty good job of not embarrassing myself to saying too much. So I think I better stop here while I'm ahead. I'm
um,
a very much that person.
yeah, the I just will put out there anyway who's listening or gets these sound bites or whatever that we throw out there is to reach out to you as you've reached out to others. You're on an upward trajectory at a pretty rapid pace in an area too. It's like, so that's another thing. If you're brand new right now and
It's hard.
you live up in the greater Nassau County in those areas, and one of the common themes that we've been talking about lately is shadowing or having that mentor. And I know, we talked about Missy earlier, Balistra, and she's got someone with her.
She's given me some good tips through the years too.
Yeah. And then I've had some different teams where Elaine Morgan with an
Mhm.
I from over in Clay County, she's got a young agent who's mentoring under her. If you're that young agent, young meaning like new in the business, not necessarily age, and you want to connect with someone who's on an upward trajectory, doing all the right things, and you want to get on that path quickly, they should be giving you a call.
Yes, I mean, I love teaching. I love sharing. I mean, because even whenever I was a PT, I was working and teaching. Like I was helping over at St. Augustine again, like in the
Mhm,
classroom. So
mhm.
I love
If
to talk and
someone's
I love
out
to
there right now, are
educate.
you ready to if someone came to you and you thought they have the desire, the work ethic and so forth? Because that's obviously the key thing. You're just
Yeah,
not
I
gonna bring
mean,
on anyone. You'll talk to anyone, but who you actually partner with, so to speak, or bring under your brand,
yeah, I definitely would
has gonna
entertain it.
have to to talk to him because I think if you're an agent in this business and talking to some of our recent guests, I mean, to get on the coattails, especially we have a lot of agents, I think are doing really well that are like not even 30 years old.
Yeah.
And it's because they've latched on the coattails of some people who are doing it. They studied it and now they're doing it. And they're doing very well before the age of 30.
Well, and my mindset is not of the 30-year-old or the late 20-year-old. So, to have that maybe some different vantage point, different
Hmm.
take on it
Hmm.
is definitely some way to grow. I definitely believe more so that where we're going with real estate, you're going to have some type of team in place, whether it's a bunch of support personnel or other agents. I definitely more and more see to where like a just a solo
Hmm.
operation is going to really, if they're trying to make a consistent livelihood off of it, is
Right.
going to be a lot more difficult, just the demands of the client.
I love the way you described, the setup there at the Century 21 Miller Elite. You have the support staff. You as the agent just need to plug in. One of the biggest attractors, and I try to tell management this, but they here in the loan world, and it's not just Loan Depot, it's all places because we're being recruited daily,
Mhm.
text messages, phone calls, LinkedIn, whatever, they're pounding us. The reality is a quality person is not going to come over,
Mhm.
experienced person. Someone who's inexperienced doesn't know any better.
Right.
A quality person experience isn't going to come over unless you have that support. They've got the in-house support that's there. And obviously you raise your production, maybe bring on someone else to help handle your production. That is so key to have that assistant and move your business to another level. Would you agree?
I agree. And it for retention, because,
Mhm.
you want to keep top quality.
Mhm.
I mean, top skill and top, top producers. Like, for instance, I have a very good friend who is a huge Kentucky basketball fan. And being an LSU grad, I used to bust his chops all the time.
Mhm.
Calipari, has done a great job all these years, top 4, top 8, Elite 8.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, what happened to Kentucky this year? It's because all their one and dones are done.
Mhm.
You've got to retain that,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
have a pipeline of talent.
exactly. It's only good for one and dones are only good for so long.
Right. Right.
I'm a huge sports fan, by the way. I make a lot of
Okay.
sports analogies. Love
But
you, Ryland.
but that's the key is to have that support. You want to attract talent over you. They want to, because like you are narrowing down your focus. And that means you're pushing all those things that are administrative off to the side because you're 10xing down on your focus, which is then producing you more production. So that you got to have the support staff. And if you find that talent, that's talent, and you help them focus and take away all those other distractions, those administrative things, they will also produce well as well. And then they don't want to go back. So don't think you're going to take them from where they're getting it and bring it over to you. And you're not going to offer them the support. You got to offer the support. That's why they're going to come over. And then the rest is history. All right.
Be the Chick-fil-A.
Anything else you want to add? Yes. Beef Chick-fil-A.
Be Chick-fil-A. No,
You good?
I'm good.
All right,
I think it might be time to go get some Chick-fil-A.
Final question. Is it more important who you know or what you know and why?
I think it's more important to know it's what you know,
Okay.
because if you know what you know, or if it's what you know, you will then find out who you need to know.
So it's not who you know will tell you what you need to know. You're saying you need to know to find out.
Yes,
You're
or lack
complete.
thereof.
She is. We're
Or
being a
lack
gang.
thereof, or lack thereof knowing. I actually argue you need to be aware of what you don't know to then find out what you need to know, and then find who you need to know. There you go.
Okay. All right. We'll accept the answer. Miranda, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It has been a blast.
It has been a great conversation, and I hope, like I said, we'll cut. There's a lot of good reels in here, and we're putting that out, and I'll be sharing this over to your Facebook page.
Awesome.
So
thank
your
you.
your circle obviously will see it. Those of your friends that are listening, hopefully they'll subscribe at least when the audio comes out, which won't be until what's today? Tuesday. Probably won't be till next Tuesday. The audio will go out. Obviously, I'll let you know, and you can share it around. But if everyone can go in there and give a review, I would appreciate it.
Go to the podcasts. Follow Tracy.
Yep, Apple, Spotify, all those it'll come out on all those platforms. But it's also going to go up on YouTube as well. So if you want to go on the YouTube video,
Hit that like and subscribe.
you got to
button.
subscribe to the YouTube channel though. That's the most important thing.
I got one.
All right, appreciate you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.